One day to go until the transfer window opens, and all the reputable journalists are reporting that Tottenham are looking to sign players in as many as 4 different positions, and that they're currently manoeuvring to bring in one of the world's great attacking midfield mavericks to supply competition to our forward line. Meanwhile, I'll bring you my thoughts on the Wolves game now that the dust has settled on Sunday's draw, and I'll let you know how I feel about James Maddison and Brennan Johnson going to the darts after that game, something that has wound up a lot of Tottenham fans. All this and more on today's episode of the Spurred On podcast, and it's the start of my daily Premier League transfer news episodes. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please do give this video a like. Let's get it seen by as many Premier League fans as we can. And also, I'm looking to get to 15,000 subscribers, guys. So if you're not a subscriber, please do press that subscribe button if you like daily transfer news and Tottenham Hotspur news, because obviously I'm a huge Spurs fan. Please do press that subscribe button. But let's get going with all of the transfer rumours coming at the moment about Spurs, and there's a lot of them because Johan Lange and Scott Munn are working so hard, according to all of the reputable journalists, to bring players in to help Ange Postecoglou's injury-ravaged squad as early as possible this window. And I'm sure you've seen all the reports coming out that Jack Grealish is definitely interesting Tottenham ahead of this window. It's believed that any interest in Grealish would be contingent on Manchester City being willing to pay a good portion of his wages, which are rumoured to be around £300,000 a week as part of any loan agreement. Newcastle are also interested in Grealish, and they would need that to happen too. Now, you may be sat there thinking, well, why on earth would Manchester City do that? Well, the reality is they have a history of doing that. Remember when we got Emmanuel Adebayor from Manchester City? City were paying, I think, £150,000 a week of his £200,000 a week wages even back then, and that was way longer than 10 years ago, probably nigh on 15 years ago now. So they know, Man City, that if they want to get Grealish off the wage bill at all, or off the books at all for the rest of this season, and all the rumours are that he is literally on the transfer list now, he has been told that he can leave the club, then they will need to take a hit on it and pay some of those wages himself. Now, in terms of whether I think Jack Grealish is the right player to come into Spurs, I'm a little bit conflicted. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is he the kind of player that will help us? Well, in the short term, I don't think there can be any doubt that a player of his quality would improve the situation we're in. Because right now, what with Mikey Moore's illness, Son Heung-min out of form and having been basically overplayed all season, he missed that penalty in the last game against Wolves, and I think that was a result of fatigue and a lack of confidence and a lack of form. Timo Werner, I mean, I don't know if I can even talk anymore about Timo Werner in this situation, and Wilson Odobert out for the foreseeable future. So basically, all of our left-sided forward options are in trouble. So therefore, bringing Jack Grealish in on loan in the short term, by which I mean certainly in terms of the next month or two, it could only benefit us. But in terms of the medium to long term, and is Jack Grealish what I think Tottenham are missing under Ange Postecoglou, then I would have to say probably not. We need more acceleration, more pace, more ability to hit teams quickly on the break, the way that a lot of those teams doing really well do. Nottingham Forest is a perfect example. He beat us the other week. Hit us on the break, hitting everyone on the break at the moment, and they have Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White going forward, and Callum Hudson-Odoi. So that is the kind of thing that I think Spurs are missing, kind of an element of surprise, an element of pace. Grealish does bring surprise in another way. He's a maverick. He really wins unbelievable amounts of free kicks for you, and that's why he's always been so good for England. I think when he comes on for England, or he plays for England on the left, he wins so many free kicks, and in international football, set pieces are so huge. But under Ange, with Ange ball, he doesn't ask us to play a lot of balls into the box from set pieces, realistically. So a lot of the set pieces we get in the opposition's half, we will then just take short, and it's part of his kind of relentlessness. He just wants everything to go incredibly quickly and to happen fast. Whereas I feel like one of Grealish's best abilities, it's not his only ability, but is to get the ball, draw in an opposition defender, and then win a free kick. And then if you're a team like it was at Villa when he was there, who then will get the ball into the box and potentially make a lot of your chances from set pieces, and that can really benefit you. But under Ange, I'm not sure that is a huge benefit. The other thing, though, is he does draw, like I said, opposition defenders to him, and that could allow more space for some of our other players, that's for sure. I could imagine him having good link up with Maddison, Kulusevski, Solanke for sure. But my overall fear, and like I said, please do get in the comments and let me know what you think. My overall fear with Grealish is, and this is the same fear that I have with any players who come from the clubs where they've had their huge move to. So Grealish has gone to Man City and he's won absolutely everything. He was there for the treble. He's won everything. He's on, a huge amount of money, £300,000 a week. He went there for £100 million. When players leave those big clubs, it is so rare for me that then they move back down to a situation where they're not going to win the kind of things that they've won there before. And I think they just lose their motivation a little bit. That's my biggest fear. Now, maybe there's a devil's advocate side to that, where Jack Grealish has played so little football under Pep Guardiola. And Pep Guardiola, it was so important for Pep Guardiola to kind of shave off the maverick edges of Jack Grealish and turn him into kind of a Guardiola robot in his formation and only play in a certain way. Similar to what Guardiola did when Thierry Henry went to Barcelona, actually. You can only do it this one way and you've got to play within the team structure rather than be your maverick self. Maybe Grealish could be hungry because he's not been able to be himself, and he could come and play Ange ball, and Ange will give him the kind of freedom to do whatever he wants, similar to how Kulusevski can when he's playing off the right. He can go either way. He can take players on, and he can be his kind of playmaker self. So maybe there's a chance that would inspire Grealish. But my fear is that with the amount of money he's earning, coming back to London as well, we know Jack likes a night out. We know he's a sociable guy. Maybe just there are too many dangers there. But in terms of a 6-month loan deal, I don't think there are many risks. And considering we were willing to do that last year with Timo Werner, and we saw how that worked out, I think it would be less of a risk to get Grealish in than it would be for Timo Werner. But also, just one final flip side of that, in terms of the way Ange likes to play, which is to get his wide forwards to the byline and then getting those crosses in behind the back line for the opposite wide forward to finish at the back post, I'm not sure Grealish really has the pace to get in at the back post that well. If Brennan Johnson, say, is in down the right, gets to the byline, gets some separation from the opposition defenders, and then gets across the box, inside the box between the keeper and the centre halves, do I think that Grealish has the pace to get in at the back post like Big Ange Postecoglou will want him to? I don't. I think it's more likely he would hang on the edge of the box, and that wouldn't be what Ange wants. But like I said, let me know in the comments. Do you think Grealish is realistic? Would you want him at Tottenham Hotspur? Of course, we were looking to get Jack Grealish in before he even went to Man City, many years before actually, just when he was a young kid at Aston Villa showing promise. We very nearly got him through the door when Aston Villa needed money desperately, but then they had an influx of money and they didn't need to sell him at the very last minute. So Grealish is a player Spurs have been interested in for a long time. He is a Tottenham player in terms of like Tadare is to do, Maverick players, Glenn Hoddle, Chris Waddle, Paul Gascoigne, players who will get the fans out of their seats. So I can see that being a benefit, but I just worry about his motivation levels. Anyway, moving on to some other transfer rumours. Spurs have interest in PSV Eindhoven playmaker Malik Tillman, but a deal could be difficult to complete in January because he is an important player for the Dutch side. Tillman has played at Bayern Munich and at Rangers. He's been around, but he is a talented player. But for me, the most important thing is that Spurs, like I said at the top, they are looking to improve their squad and get players in, both in terms of centre-back and full-back, left full-back, ideally a player who can play both of those roles, a number 6 potentially, and a wide forward as well, ideally a wide forward who can play up front as a 9 as well, to take the weight of Dominic Solanke, to take the weight of Son Heung-min, and as we know, Richarlison, who just doesn't play enough games. The rumours of Ben Godfrey last week that we talked about, Spurs have been apparently offered the chance to sign Ben Godfrey from Atalanta, the former Everton player, but have no interest in pursuing him. But according to the Mail Sport, Ko Itakura of Borussia Mönchengladbach is someone that has been floated as a defender that they are potentially interested in. So like I said, looking for players who can play across a number of positions, utility players. But also, all the reports coming from the journalists at Tottenham are especially interested in players who have experience in playing with a high line at a high tempo, high pressing game. So that would make sense. And like I said, according to Paul O'Keefe, who seems to have good ins at Tottenham Hotspur, the positions that Spurs are really looking to improve on at the moment: goalkeeper, centre-back, centre-forward and winger. And that centre-back ideally being a player who can play at left-back as well, with versatility considered an advantage. Like I said, the goalkeeper position is something that Spurs want to upgrade. However, they are prioritising using their funds on attack and defence this January. They feel like Fraser Forster has done a good enough job when he's been deputising for Vicario that they're not going to rush in unless a really good deal comes up this January. How do you feel Fraser Forster has done since he's come in for Vicario? Has he done enough? Obviously, I think his shot stopping has been pretty excellent overall. But are there things that you've seen where you're like, actually, that has affected our ability on the ball as well, and maybe in terms of his starting position, kind of rushing off his line as well? I like Fraser Forster. I think he's done enough, but for me, and I've said it before, he should be our third choice goalkeeper. He should be our kind of Scott Carson or our Richard Wright. Scott Carson has been third choice goalkeeper at Manchester City for years and years and years, never played a game, but he's got Premier League title winning medals as a result. And I think Fraser Forster now at 35, 36, whatever he is, he deserves to be just a third choice goalkeeper, have an easy life, and help coach some of those younger keepers. So we need to bring somebody in, and that's why they're looking at the likes of James Trafford at Burnley. I think Patterson at Sunderland is being talked about, a kind of younger, more exciting, hungry goalkeeper who can come in, play some Europa League games, potentially in future seasons, play some League Cup games, and then try and make their way as the next Tottenham Hotspur number one. As I mentioned, now that, and I like to do this, those of you who are regulars to my videos, I like to kind of wait a day after a disappointing performance and disappointing result from Spurs, let the dust settle, and then give my thoughts on that game. And I'll give my thoughts on where I think Spurs are at now heading into the new year as well. The first thing I want to say is how I've been really disappointed, maybe not surprised, but disappointed with how the kind of pundits and the media have once again after the Wolves game been talking about how Ange's football isn't sustainable because we don't change our style of play. Well, as far as I'm concerned, that Wolves game is actually an advantage of how Ange is tweaking the style of play. We played basically to hang on to that lead. And I'm not suggesting that that's something that Ange will have wanted in so many words. I don't think he'll have wanted the players to kind of sit back and hang on, but I think fatigue was probably a big part of that. But we were really sitting back and trying to hit Wolves on the break. And one of the things that I was disappointed with actually was that it was as if we felt like on the rare occasion that we did win the ball back from Wolves because they had most of the possession after we went 2-1 ahead, we tried to do things far too quickly, actually. I think we tried to do the kind of paradise through balls into our forward players to try and get them to finish off and score that third goal too quickly. And actually what we could have done is maybe kept the ball a bit longer and made Wolves run about to try and have to work hard, to get the ball off us and kind of expend energy in their legs. But anyway, like I said, Ange clearly is tweaking things. There are differences, and I think the pundits need to watch that. They need to be properly watching those games and commenting on that rather than just going for the same old narrative. But yeah, just lazy punditry as far as I'm concerned. Mentioning fatigue there, I think fatigue is basically everything at Spurs right now, and it's the inability for Ange to bring on and to squad rotate enough players to stop them all from fatiguing during games at the same time. As an example, I think the opening goal against Wolves even comes from fatigue. I know you're going to say, what? It was really early on and it was a quick free kick, but I actually think fatigue can lead to a lack of concentration. And really Spurs should have seen the way that, because it wasn't that it happened really quickly. There were a couple of passes and then it came to Hwang, and only one player really tried to close down Hwang for that shot. Brennan Johnson, I think it was, and he was blocked off. And that wasn't given on the pitch, so it wasn't turned over by VAR. But really, when a free kick happens like that and it's kind of taken short and then laid across, you should have many, many runners concentrating on their toes to close that down and try and get a block on it, and I don't think they did. The good news is, this week is our first kind of proper week off in a long time. That's why Ange Postecoglou has given the players a couple of days off. And I really hope that that can benefit us in terms of energy in the legs against Newcastle, because that Newcastle game will be incredibly difficult. They're coming to the lane at the weekend. They beat Manchester United at Old Trafford last night. I think they're up to 5th in the league. They were behind us just a few weeks ago. It shows how tight everything is, but they put a run together of wins over the Christmas period, and that's what it takes. A few wins and you're right back up there. But unfortunately, because of the fatigue, because of the amount of players we've had out injured, Tottenham have not been able to do that. So I'm really hopeful that this kind of week off where the players can just hopefully recover their legs and get some energy back into their muscles. hopefully we can be a little bit more clinical when we get our chances against Newcastle. Hopefully we can start the game quickly and try and get a few early game goals. I feel like that equaliser against Wolves, the second goal for Wolves, comes from a bit of a lack of knowledge at centre-back from Archie Gray, and I don't think that's his fault. He's doing absolutely brilliantly as far as I'm concerned, Archie Gray. 18 years old, and not really putting a foot wrong. And I just think, in terms of me saying that was a lack of knowledge, he didn't follow his runner. I don't think he even saw his runner there, Larsson, and it was a good ball, and there wasn't much pressure on the pass either, so it's not totally Archie Gray's fault. I think it was Kulusevski who was nearest the passer of the ball and needs to be a little bit closer. Again, I think another example of fatigue. Kulusevski's been playing every single game, just running his legs off every single game, and it was just a bit of a perfect storm. And still, even though, those tiny little mistakes happened, it's still an excellent finish from Larsson. Absolutely powered it into the roof of the net. Probably the only place where Forster couldn't have got to it. And just one of those things. And look, a lot of stick came Ange's way for saying if Dragusin hadn't been fit for that game, he didn't know who he would have played, and saying, well, that's a bit of a, Alfie Dorrington should leave the club because he's clearly not rated. I don't think it's as simple as that. I think what Ange Postecoglou was saying with that was, is it really realistic to play two 18-year-olds, one of whom isn't even in the right position at centre-back in a Premier League game? I think he's basically saying that you can't take that risk. And I know it seems simple for those of us who, don't watch these players in training every day and don't know what they're like and what their mentality is like and how much senior football they've played. I mean, I read an interview with Alfie Dorrington where he said basically he only started playing football to a really high level when he was about 13, 14. So he's only been playing properly at a really good level for 4 or 5 years. So to throw him in at centre-back starting in a Premier League game alongside another 18-year-old who's never played centre-back in his life before the last month, really. I think I'm with Ange on that one. Let me know what you think in the comments, but I can totally understand why Ange was basically saying, I can't take that risk. The next thing I've kind of thought about over the last day since the dust has settled, I genuinely think now, if Levy was going to sack Ange Postecoglou, I think he might well have done it by now. And I think that's a positive overall. I think a lot of the fan base this season have said from the start, I don't care about the league this season, I just care about cups. Well, we're in the cups. We've still got a chance in all the cups. And this is what a lot of the fan base has been asking for a long time, for Levy to stick with a manager through thick and thin. And I think with Ange Postecoglou, he's got the manager who he likes in terms of Postecoglou is being very protective of his players, other than, of course, that one Timo Werner incident. He's protective of the transfer strategy. He says, this is what the strategy should be. This is what I want. I want us to be buying young, hungry players. And he is protective of the board. Unlike Conte, he's not kind of slagging off Tottenham's past. He's not slagging off the decisions that the board are making. And therefore, I think Levy is, for now, happy to stay with Ange. I did say at the beginning of this Christmas period, I felt if he lost all 3 of those games, I don't think Levy could do anything other than fire him. But he did get that draw against Wolves. And I'm hopeful that he'll at least get the Carabao Cup semi-final and see what happens there. And for me, the key to our season may well be, can we stay in the tie in that first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final against Liverpool at home? Can we kind of stay within a goal of them when going to Anfield? Really, we need to be drawing with them at the very least going to Anfield for that second leg. But in that second leg, we will have players back, and it really will be at the beginning of February, right in the crux of Liverpool's title challenge. So we need to stay in that for our season and for Ange Postecoglou, I think. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. My only issue with Ange Postecoglou is just the injuries. And I think I love Ange and I want it to work for him, but something has to change in terms of his training. And I really hope it is, because we can't have any more hamstring injuries. Destiny Udogie was the latest to go down in that Wolves game, and we're basically left with no defenders now. No defenders left now that Spence will come in through Doggy. Ange was asked after the game, is he hurting as much of the players as the players are at the moment? He says, of course I am. It hurts me because I'm responsible ultimately. I'm the person in charge. So of course it hurts when I see how hard they're trying. It hurts even more because you want them to get a reward. Today they deserved a reward for their efforts, even though they were dipping into their reserves of energy, which I don't even know where they got it from. I wanted them to get a reward for their efforts, so of course it hurts. It hurts immensely. At the same time, it's my responsibility for where we're at right now. It's my responsibility to get us out of it. Ange was asked about giving the players a few days off, as I mentioned earlier. He said, we knew this is the first week where we don't have a midweek game. So I think the whole group probably needs a couple of days just to get away from everything and recover, because it's been fairly intense for a real small core group of players, particularly over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I think it'll do them good to have a couple of days to themselves with their families and give them a chance to recover mentally as much as physically. I'll just keep going. We've got work to do to try and get some help for these players, and our role is to try and give them everything we can, the support that we can to perform at their best. So I think what Ange's saying there is that he's going to be in the club every day with Scott Munn and Johan Langer talking through potential signings for Tottenham this January. Which kind of signings are worth taking a risk on, which signings we need for now, and which signings we need for the short and long term. Also mentioning whether playing Dragishin was a risk. The other day he says he wasn't 100%, but he felt he could get through with his ankle. And again, I think the players are all giving everything they can at the moment. It's just unfortunately we can't give them what they really need, and that is some recovery and rest, because we've got so many players out. But Radu wanted to play today, and while he wasn't 100%, we had no choice to put him out there. There's no choice, but it's not a risk. I mean, it's a judgment call, It's not like it's a muscle injury, it's a knock on his ankle. But yes, we're making decisions. We've got no choice unless I throw another 18 or 17-year-old out there. Well, they're the only fit players we have at the moment. So that's exactly what I was talking about there. He just didn't feel like he could play 2 centre-halves at 18 and 17 years old in a Premier League game. Brennan Johnson came out and fronted up after the game against Wolves. He said this: it was a tough game. Wolves came here on the back of a really good result against Man United, but I think we showed enough to get through the game and definitely created enough chances to win, so it's disappointing. To get ourselves back in front the way we did, and we had the chances to get another in those games, we have to really grit our teeth and get a result. It's sickening when the goal goes in because everyone's worked so hard and we haven't been at our best, but we've really worked hard to get a result, and for them to score right at the end, it was a massive blow. I'm not going to lie and say we were all buzzing. It's been tough. The minimum we can do is give our all. That's what we're doing, to be fair. I don't think I can doubt anyone's belief and work rate. It's just so disappointing when results like this happen late on. And then, of course, on the evening of that Wolves draw, the pictures came out from the darts, where both Brennan Johnson and James Maddison had gone to watch after the game. There was no evidence of them drinking. There was no evidence, for me, of anything to suggest that they shouldn't be there. Let me know how you feel in the comments. I know this kind of splits the fan base, but for me, they've been given a few days off. They've been working hard. I know it's not the result we all wanted, but is there anything wrong with them going out and socialising? Going watch some other sport? I don't think so. Mickey van der Ven also then I think went the night after, and for me it's just another example of the kind of social media fans these days just trying to jump on anything they can to have a go at their own players. And listen, these boys need a break, they need a rest, and they need to have fun. And I think we've got to support them. This is my opinion, and it's subjective, and of course you're allowed yours, and let me know in the comments how you feel. But for me, the more that Brennan Johnson and James Maddison and the rest of the players, Mickey van der Ven, can go out, enjoy themselves and take away the stresses of what's been a really difficult time in the Premier League, the better. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. Do give this video a like if you haven't already. As I said, I'm looking to get to 15,000 subscribers. I'm not far away now, so please do give me a subscribe if you haven't already for daily Premier League transfer content starting tomorrow, now that the transfer window is about to open, and always, of course, starting with my beloved Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Also, you can listen to this as an audio podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Just type in the Spurred On Podcast, give me a follow or subscribe there, and enjoy your New Year's celebrations, guys. Have a good one. Cheers.